Hey, welcome again. Pat The Pauper here with another episode of Cardboard Conversations. Extra delayed tonight. It's super chilly up here in the great Northeast, so everybody's at home sucking up that beautiful bandwidth. Joined tonight, we've got Pure MTG, Bob and Matt, and a special guest, Gavin. Welcome aboard. How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. It's good to be here. It's having fun.
Spent
Oh,
some
Yeah, I
time
gotta
wonderful.
say, I'm very
off the
excited.
stream chatting a bit, so we're primed, ready to go, folks.
Right, we did
Yeah,
our vocal
I gotta say, I'm
warm-ups.
super
Yeah.
stoked about this one, guys. And all of you out there should be too. So please, keep it civil, but feel free to ask questions of Gavin. For those of you that are not familiar with Gavin, Gavin, do you want to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your relation to Magic?
Sure. So my name is Gavin Duggan. I go by the nickname Genomancer online. Have done for, I don't know, about a quarter century now, give or take. I'm usually on conversations like this because I'm a member of the Rules Committee. Sheldon and I sort of started the formal format that is Commander after it was sort of, being played and it was having fun. I was like, hey, we should have some formal rules. We should put them online, have a website, maybe a rules committee, stuff like that. When the two of us have been doing that for coming up on 20 years, I guess, at this point, maybe not that long, but 15 at least. And we've got a whole team of people. The Rules Committee is a collection of peers where we work together. Recently added Olivia and Jim, who are amazing, great minds. In real life, I'm a researcher. I do artificial intelligence research for a branch of Alphabet, the secret project branch of Alphabet. We can talk about that later if you want. But just happy to be here, answer some questions. I love talking about Magic. I love talking about games. I play poker, Go, Magic, Destiny, you name it, I'll play it.
I also,
Aw,
Destiny,
dang.
you're
And
talking
I
about
did.
Destiny too, right? Like the
Which,
actual
which
shooter
Dest-
game.
Are
I
you
just
talking
started
about the
playing
card
like
game?
the last week.
You talking about
that's
Star Wars?
Destiny 2, the
Destiny?
video game.
He means the shooter game.
I
Whoa, go back.
love me some
Hey,
shmup.
hey, okay, Gavin, hard question right here off the start. As a Go player, black or white?
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'll take the points. And just like I'll take my 5.5 advantage, and then at least at the beginning of the game, I'm winning.
I like it. It's one of the best games. It's one of the easiest and most difficult games in the world, which I absolutely see the translation over into Magic the Gathering. You can learn some of the most basic things, some of the easy patterns of play, and it just changes so much the more you get into it. There's higher levels of play. And as a Commander's Rule Committee member, you must see a lot of that, the difference in between how people engage with it. Is that something that you really have to rally against or for when you're thinking about cards?
Yeah, I mean the like form Commander is a social forced format, and in some senses in many ways Magic is kind of the opposite of Go, arguably.
Mm,
The rules are the most complicated rules of any game ever made, arguably,
mhm,
except
mhm.
maybe in Nomic. Um, but again, you're right. Like you learn a little bit, you build. You can spend a lifetime investing in it. The different people engage with the game in different ways, which is really important. Like there are different ways of playing Magic. I like to say that some people are builders, some people are shufflers. They like to play the game where you're reducing their life.
Yeah.
Some people are collectors. Some people are just like they just love the art. So different people play the game differently. Even within those who play, social players, tournament players, some people are optimizers, some people are experientialists. Commander definitely tries to lean more towards the experiences. We like people to have fun. We like people um, to enjoy. It is not a good skill testing format, quite frankly. Some people use it that way, and that's fine as long as they're enjoying it. But the key is that they're having fun with it. If you want to know who is the best player of Magic, Commander's a terrible way to find out. Like we're talking rock paper scissors levels of skill discrimination. So do we push back on it? A little bit, yes. We do encourage people to play socially. More beer, more wings, less prizes. People putting prizes for winning a game of Commander historically has not led to good places.
Mm,
Sometimes, if you're really careful and structure it, you can do it. But for a long time, stores, when Commander was growing, stores were like, "Hey, we want to get on this Commander bandwagon." And their assumption was we'll throw 4 people into a pod, we'll force them to play each other, and whoever kills the other players gets the prize. It's like that works really well for standard. It does not work for commander. So that's the place where we try to discourage. But other than that, yeah, do what works for you and your friends.
Can I disagree a little bit?
Please.
I play in a league every month over on Jake and Joel Magic's YouTube channel. They do the Commander League, where each month there is a theme, and you build your commander deck on a budget, and then you go to pot, you get placed in pods together, and you are competing for a prize set at the top of the if you're first, second, you get like a $45 gift card to, I think it's a TCG Player. If you're third, you get like their commander sleeve. So you actually are competing for a prize. It is a lot. It is more casual than probably what you're saying, being in face to face because we're playing over Spell Table, of course. But I actually think it's pretty good at that point as being in a league where there are some kind of rules and subsets. You're not just bringing in your crazy, demonic.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you've got a theme. Which
those are
is
banned,
sort of
by the way.
And you've got a budget restriction. So you're adding additional restrictions to make things, keep things fresh, keep things structured, keep things more exploring, which is great. But if you did the same theme and the same budget for a while, you might find it starts to get degenerate. So mixing it up is great.
The format would then be solved, and then everybody would be playing the perfect deck.
Yep.
So from what I understand, okay,
sorry. I was going to get to some of the questions because we have a lengthy list here. One of the questions that comes from our viewer Savannah Line was asking kind of when you're looking at keeping things fresh and you're looking at new cards coming in and you're trying to discern, I guess old cards too, when something needs to be banned. What are the criteria that you're using? What are the weighing factors, or is it based on gameplay? Like, what factors are you considering when you guys and gals are considering banning cards?
So there's a few, and I'll say off the bat, like we have a philosophy that we all try to hold to, and that we use to sort of communicate to ourselves, to the player base. What are we trying to do? Keep that vision in mind, and everybody on the RC has a very consistent vision of what we want the format to be. How we get there, different opinions actually, and different people have different weights, different principles, different things they're looking for. Things that are consistent. Cards that cause arguments tend to be the highest thing. So people expect it to be the most powerful cards because most formats, you sort of figure out where's the power line, and everything above that is banned. That doesn't work for Commander for a couple of things. So one principle that everyone in the RC definitely is agree with is that we want the format to be accessible, and that means the banned list needs to be pretty short. If we had, there was a casual format called 5-color for years, really cool format, but it kind of drowned under the weight of its own banned list. It got really big, and keeping the list short is important for us. So we basically we want to keep the list short, and one of the ways we do that is there are lots of cards that are really problematic. They're Thassa's Oracle. Let's take the thing in the room, the elephant in the room. That's a card that we feel that people can self-identify and look at it and be like, this card is just not a card I want to play with or play against. We know what the power level. There's no surprises. It's over. We don't need to ban it because people can figure that out. What we look at is cards that are in the middle, cards that are sort of on the fence, that are just going to make people have arguments about whether it's fair or not. Coalition Victory is a card that has been on the list for a long time, and some people think that Coalition Victory is perfectly reasonable. It's hard to use. Some people think that it suddenly ends the game, and it's really not that hard to pull off, and you end up with disagreements of it. That's why it's on the list. At least as far as I'm concerned, that's why it's on the list. So do we look at power? Yes. We used to look at cost a lot more. We wanted the format to be accessible, so that's why things like the Moxen, Black Lotus are on the list. The Mox actually aren't that great in most games of Commander. If you're playing Battlecruiser Commander, Mox aren't that great. But if they were legal, a lot fewer people would be able to play the format. Or more specifically, people who wandered into a store. And let's be clear, the best way to get people to play Commander is to have them watch people playing a game of Commander.
Yes.
And be like, why are they laughing so much? I want some of that.
Yeah, why are they
Right.
having such a good time? Why aren't they sweating and arguing the whole night? Yeah.
So having the mocks on the table, people will be like, "Oh, I can't play this game." You know, they're in that.
Right.
So power level, cost was a thing. We don't worry about it too much anymore. We've pretty much established that. We've got the popularity. Causing arguments, causing frustration. You know, limited resources. All right, this is a card that's on the ban list because it just ruins the game for everybody in a way that people they're not going to be surprised by it, but they're just like, why are you doing it? Like, oh God, why? So there are cards on the list that are exemplars. They're like, don't play cards like this. These are the cards that are in the middle, that are the dividing line. These are the exemplars of things you shouldn't play. You can go through the list. Primeval Titan is a perfect example of
I was going to ask about Primetime as well.
Primetime has a lot of fans. We still regularly get people saying Primetime should be fine. It's totally not that bad. You should allow Primetime to be legal. And it's like, you don't realize how degenerate this card is, and so you're just playing it again and again, and it hits the table. It's probably like you've got a huge advantage. It gets to attack twice. The advantage is enormous. Somebody steals it. The game becomes all about it. It's miserable. And it's surprisingly miserable. Likewise, Sylvan Primordial, it's surprisingly miserable. So giving people examples of what not to do to make friends and lose friends and make enemies, these are what the cards are. So that's kind of what we're trying to do.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
Unless you weren't finished.
Somebody in chat actually asked about counters, counters and terrors and stuff like that. And interaction is still important. You need to be able to stop people and slow people down.
Sure.
Countering everything that someone does, that's a pretty bad behavior.
Yeah.
So why isn't the Armageddon banned then?
Why is which one?
Armageddon.
Armageddon. Like nobody goes yay when that hits the table.
I think it's because everybody accepts, like he was saying, everybody accepts that it's kind of bad behavior to play that card. So then nobody plays it, right?
But then you ban balance. So it's like I don't know.
So okay, there's a few different things. Balance is a lot more powerful than people realize. Everybody knows what Armageddon does. It says on the card. It's it's three words. Everybody knows what it does to the game. It either ends the game or it drags the game out forever. It's really obvious. Balance. People think balance is reasonable. I mean, let me tell you a funny story. I have a personal list. I think probably everybody in the RC has a list of taking the banned list and ordering it by which is the card that is least likely to get unbanned. And I can tell you, every card on the list, there are people who think it should be unbanned. But the one that blows my mind is that there are a fair number of people who think that Library of Alexandria should be unbanned.
I agree.
Which tells me they've never played against Library of Alexandria. Because that card is catastrophic in terms of its power level. You don't see it on the card maybe, but it owns games. It goes in every deck. It costs $1 billion. Like everybody, it would just make the format unplayably bad if that card was there. Balance is kind of the same way. It's not as expensive, but people think that balance is a fair card. It is not. It is not even remotely a fair card. And that's why it's banned. Where Armageddon, people can read it, they can understand it. So again, what we're trying to help people do is figure out how to make friends and how to avoid making enemies.
So the follow-up question I have that since we're still talking about ban cards and whatnot, so why not unban cards in the 99 and not as commander? I have an example. Prophet of Krufix, I assume, is banned because it is extremely consistent in the right colors, and it's probably over an overall problem because it does a crazy amount of things, and it's probably not fun to play against. But in the 99, you have Seedborn Muse, which does almost exactly the same thing, just doesn't have the flash kind of tax on it. So why isn't, or have there ever been talks about banning something not as the commander, but not as the 99?
I mean, Prophet of Krufix isn't legendary. So it's banned for its use in the 99, and it's banned because
is it not legendary?
No, Krufix is legendary, but Prophet of Krufix is not. And it's Prophet of Krufix is an interesting one on the list. It is basically one of the few pure value cards that is on the list. And again, I would say it's banned because it's more powerful than people expect. So it's funny, I'm watching chat scroll by. One of the reasons I'm getting distracted is because I'm watching chat go by, and I'm loving the fact that we're seeing people who are like, balance is fair, balance is terrible, library is fair, library is terrible.
I like that there's
Academy.
no balance for balance.
No. Someone mentioned in chat played Canadian Highlander. So I know the folks who run Canadian Highlander. One of the folks who leads that is on the CAG with us on the advisory committee. Ben is a fabulous person, and I advocated for years that commanders should have a points-based system similar to Warhammer, similar to 40K.
That would take.
Remember, I mentioned that we want the format to be accessible.
Yeah.
There's no way to make that easy to know, easy to learn. So that's why we didn't go in that direction. I love the point system. I love to be able to say this is a 7-point deck or this is a 15-point deck. And here you go. So does that kind of, what was the card you were asking about? Oh, Prophet. Prophet's just so fugly.
But so is Seedborn Muse.
Yeah, but take Seedborn Muse and then give it Flash.
Yeah.
And it's even worse because now you've got, like, one of the things we talk to Wizards about is please don't print cards, especially Legends, that have the engine and the payoff on them.
Yeah.
Okay, and they've done that
Even
a few times with Legends.
They just did that recently with Marneus Calgar.
There's a few of them.
All colorless mana. How hard is it to get unlimited colorless mana to draw your entire deck?
Right. So
and that's why you
Krufix
can't
is an
have
example
library.
of a card that has a huge value engine and the payoff for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bonder's kind of that way. Yeah, I'm trying not to burp and whatnot while you guys are talking and catching that on the mic. But I mean, you have a lot of those cards. I mean, what comes to mind, like I said, is like Kinnan Bonder is one of those. He's got the payoff and an engine built right into him. So yeah,
Kinnan
Bonder Prodigy. But Krufix goes. Krufix is just sort of the from an exemplar sense, from a sense of like these are cards that the kinds of things you shouldn't do. Prophet of Krufix says, don't take all the going on. That's boring. If you're doing all the stuff, countering all the spells, playing all the creatures, don't do that. Nobody's having fun. Stop it.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch somebody else play Magic by themselves at the table.
There was another card that talked that Savannah Lives was asking why it's still banned with all the new sets coming out and the shenanigans that are being released. I actually agree that it should be banned, but Tolarian Academy.
I don't agree, but whatever.
I'm actually surprised that anybody thinks that Tolarian Academy is fair, especially with the introduction of treasures and food and blood tokens and goodness knows what. Like
I've played
worse than it ever was, and it was never remotely fair.
Play Galazeth or Urza's and then tell me that Tolarian Academy needs to be unbanned.
I think Tolarian Academy might be the closest thing to a card that is banned for pure power reasons. Maybe Tinker. Tinker is the pure power, just like nope, this isn't an exemplar of anything. This thing's just recalculous. But Tolarian's way up there.
Gaia's Cradle also is one of those cards that it probably should be banned. It's similar power levels.
If you're being a dick with Gaia's Cradle, then yeah, I agree. Like,
there's a lot of cards
where do you
similar
stop? Sarah Sanctum. I mean, there's a whole bunch of cards out there like that. But,
Sarah Sanctum's a lot harder to abuse. A lot harder. Gaia's Cradle is a lot easier to disrupt. Like Wraths are pretty popular in Commander, and a Wrath basically turns Gaia's Cradle back into a forest.
Doesn't do anything to Sarah Sanctum.
The Sarah Sanctum requires enchantments. Enchantments are slow and big and expensive. And like if you want to get Sarah Sanctum to tap for 3 or 4, you got to do some work. You want Tolarian Academy to tap for 4, you need to look sideways at it.
I mean, I agree. Of the 3, that Tolarian's probably the easiest to pull off, but I don't know. I've seen an awful lot of enchantment decks go off by like turn 4 or 5, where they're putting out 15 to 20 enchantments in a single turn. Olivia played a deck like that.
It's not usually 15 to 20. It's like 2 or 3 or 4, which they can definitely go off 100%. Yeah. But, using, getting a bunch of artifact tokens so that like
It's
So
easier.
there's two things that Tolarian Academy does. One, it goes from 0 to 60 really fast. It's easy to
Yeah.
get 4 or 5 artifacts and just be generating a bunch of mana. It also goes from 60 to light speed really fast, where it's suddenly generating 20 mana per tap. Blech.
Yeah,
So-
there's that enchantment, that red blue enchantment that if you have, I think it's like if you have a X number of artifacts, it like flips at the end of turn and turns into a Tolarian Academy. I've flipped that and I've got to play with Tolarian Academy and it's insane.
That's the one. I think that's the one from it.
Or maybe you have to hit somebody with it. It's a recent
in the
card.
line. Yeah. It's empty the vaults or something. I don't remember.
That
No.
sounds right.
In any
Yeah, that
case,
card turns into Tolarian Academy after you meet a certain criteria, which is not that difficult.
Well, same
And
thing
play that with a
Growing
Gal's
Rights
effect,
is
and
simple.
you're
I mean,
you're having
if you
fun.
get, you've got some critters out, you play growing rights, and then boom, you've pretty much got Gaia's Cradle. I mean, there's a number of elves that are similar enough. And as we've been playtesting some behind the scenes stuff, board wipes are pretty ridiculous. And now they're
Yeah.
making them for all sorts of different types. Destroy all enchantments, destroy all artifacts. It seems as though Magic is having different options for being more equivalent for different deck types, which I'm a big fan of. When you
Yeah, I think
shuffle
that's
up and
really
play
good.
with, different people, I like that everybody can get equally damaged in different ways in games now.
There's good hate, there's good disruption, which is nice. The one thing there isn't, and this is something that I've been asking Wizards to print. There was one of the questions in the list was how's our relationship with Wizards? We get to talk to them, all the rest of it. One thing that doesn't exist that I really think Commander needs is a wrath or something that punishes ramp. Ramp is really good. Ramp is arguably the best strategy in Commander.
Yes.
And to be clear, mass land destruction, like Armageddon, isn't a terribly good answer to ramp because the person who's ramping usually rebuilds faster than everyone else anyway. Or they already have a bunch of stuff, and now mass land destruction just leaves them with a bunch of stuff and leaves everybody else with it. What we need are cards like Price of Progress that punish someone for ramping, so that if they ramp, when you use this, you can make them worse off than if they hadn't ramped in the first place. That's one of the things that isn't, and like you said, Pat, they're printing good answers for lots of different strategies. There's no good answers for ramp, and we kind of need them.
What
Actually-
about Confounding Conundrum?
I was say I came across Confounding Conundrum as a nutty card. Are you familiar with it? So it's 1 blue and 1 colorless enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And then whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to their owner hand. Also, it's interesting, if you Harrow and 2 lands hit the battlefield at the same time, you have to bounce 2 lands.
It's true.
So this is one of them for just land.
Confounding Conundrum is actually a good example of it's not really a good card. And the reason is most of the time in the late game, people have played the lands in their hand. They're drawing a land, they're playing a land. They can ramp on the turns where they didn't draw a land. They can, there's also artifact ramp for what it's worth, but in terms of land ramp, it slows them down a little bit, but not much. All it does is cost them 1 mana. They're still going to replay that extra land the next turn. They still have the cards in hand. It doesn't really hurt them. It's a situational card that can slow down someone from ramping, but doesn't hurt them for ramping. What I want is something that really hurts. I want things that are like deal damage to target player equal to twice the number of lands they control. I don't care if it costs 6. I want a fireball. I want red to just be like
that.
Shooting people in the face for 17 and being like, screw you.
That sounds like particularly Phyrexian. Oh, you've got basic lands? I really hate that. How about we, if each time you tap this, take 2 damage. Putting that on a land. Oh, sure. Putting that on all their lands.
Well, so that would be really, really like there are cards like not Mana Flare. What's the one that every time someone taps
Mana Barbs?
They take one? Mana Barbs. Thank you, Mana Barbs. Mana Barbs is great. I think Mana Barbs should see more play in Commander. I think in general, recurring land destruction should see more play in Commander. Red players should be blowing up people's lands. That's just fine. Now, blow up the lands of the person who's ramping. Don't kick the guy who's down.
Yes.
And,
I think that's one of the biggest things in Commander, at least in my pod, is threat, assessment. Too often we've got this one guy, he's got a big dumb dino deck, and he thinks he should swing out at somebody else. And no, you should take it easy. You should make sure you got big stuff for those dinos. But no. He just wants to start turning cards sideways.
I'm okay with it. I like punching.
Well, then how do you feel about Storm Cauldron? You were talking about punishing ramp, and that kind of punishes people that ramp. It's going to end up putting the cards back in their hand. Like, they're getting all the land out there, but as soon as they tap it, it's going back to their hand. So they're eventually going to end up pitching him in the graveyard.
Doesn't it hurt? Hang on, I'm sure
it does hurt everybody, but it certainly slows down ramp. There's two cards that I just want to play just because my mind is warped.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong one. Stormcaller is the red creature, I thought.
No, Storm
it's an artifact. Each player may play an additional land during each of their turns, and then whenever a land is tapped for mana, return it to its owner's hand.
Oh, yeah. See, that hurts the non-ramp players more than it hurts the ramp players.
Right.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, eventually, the only reason to ramp, you're going to tap it, right? But it has to go back to your hand, so your hand is going to be full.
It hurts
you pitching into the graveyard. It's going to hurt everybody, but it's
still better than everybody else.
But is it less hurtful to hurt you than to stop the ramp player from having 35 lands on the table?
I'd rather this is the thing. I want silver bullets. I want to Pat's point about answers. You know, things that every strategy. This is a principle that I believe for game design. Every strategy should have a foil, should have a counter.
Yes.
You know, if you know that someone is going to do a thing, you should be able to take advantage of that knowledge.
Well, I mean, you have a perfect card out there to fight ramp. It's called balance.
Oh, get out of here with that. So I to that, as an example of that, Gavin, I was playing on Arena. Give or take anybody's opinion on it, I enjoy playing the game. So I was playing a brawl deck, and I put out Smothering Tithe in a brawl game just because the other person ended up drawing like 30 cards. And because I got all that treasure, I was able to do something with it. So there is a great balance. Like you said, you have to have that foil for everything.
Smothering Tithe is a great card.
And as incredible as, you know, like all the incredible, you know, Kozilek and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's got indestructible, so exile it.
So there's a trick there, and this is a long conversation to have. I'm happy to come on another time and sort of unpack a bit. But the short version is there are some types of answers we expect people to be able to have, creatures. There are some types of answers we expect people to be able to have a little bit of, but not right away and not super consistently, artifacts, enchantments. Mm-hmm. You know, even non-basic land hate, you know, people should have a little bit. But we don't expect people to be able to have artifact destruction to hand immediately all the time, because that means just filling your deck up with artifact destruction or, you know, answers. There's a danger to making sure that a foil to a strategy, you know, printing one card that does something isn't, you know, especially if you have to have it right away, isn't really helpful to the format. So what we need is sort of, you know, sometimes it comes down to just having a critical mass, a balance of types of answers. You know, I really, really, really wish that Smothering Tithe, instead of saying every time someone draws a card, unless they pay, you get a treasure, it said, whenever someone draws a card, except for the first card in their draw step, get 2 treasures. That would be a fantastic commander card. That would be so good for the format. It'd be so much fun for the format. Instead, it punishes people from doing their thing, which is just drawing, you know, for the turn, and slows, you know. So I think it would be much better if it was just actually punishing extra draws.
I actually agree with that.
So you know, I'm sorry. My final question on the matter of, you know, like stopping ramp. Do you feel ramp is more problematic for the format, or do you feel that fast mana is more problematic, i.e.,
good question,
mana crypts, etc.?
Great question. Don't know. We'd spend a lot of time talking about it. I mean, fast mana and the proliferation of 2-mana rocks is certainly, you know, requires more, you know, and look, we rely on players to self-limit. We rely on players to find the type of games they like to play and create those kinds of games. And we talked about how there are lots of cards that are abusive, that are not interesting to play against, that people, you know, have to choose not to play, or choose to play and be fine with it if everybody at the table's fine with it. Fast mana is a very seductive thing that when there was a little bit of it, and it made the game a little bit asymmetric. I mean, Sol Ring is essentially the ante of the format. All right, and I mean ante in the no limit hold'em sense of let's get the betting started. It's the big blind, where now that there's like a bunch of signets and rock and all the rest of it, we're like, yeah, you're not, it forces the game to go in a particular direction. I don't know which is worse. I'm not sure that there's a good answer to it, but they're both things that stop other people from doing their thing as much. They don't balance the game out. So in general,
and that's something that's come up a lot in my pod as well. In our deck design, is that it can't stop other people from interacting. You can't stop someone else from having fun. You just punish them for doing stuff. Hey, you're going to draw a card? Cool, I'm going to make a treasure. You're going to attack? Cool, sacrifice a creature. It's not, you can't do this. You can't have fun. You can't play your deck. Those are some of the worst times around, which is one of the reasons why Turgid is absolutely the worst thing in my world. I love to draw cards and put stuff out on the table. And when I have no hand and then you get to take them, that's like the worst feels in my world. Yeah.
I mean, someone mentioned in chat, someone talked about sideboards. We used to have a sideboard rule, actually. I really like them. I really like as an alternative, an optional house rule. Everybody has a 10 or 15 card sideboard. Everybody announces their commander. Which commander you're playing. Everybody takes a few minutes, sideboards a few cards, and play them. It can be a lot of fun. That said, it does tend to lead to some pretty ugly play patterns if people aren't self-limiting. Choke and boil and the like are suddenly pretty good. So those are good things. Yeah, no, you're right. Rule 0. I mean, turn 0 is the important thing to do, is to talk to people about games and play. And in the end, Commander is about being social. We can help people be social, but we can't force them to be social. And no matter what rules we wrote, no matter how complicated, no matter how long the list was, we can't force people to be social. So instead, what we do is we throw them in the swimming pool and let them swim a little bit. And when they swim together, they can have some fun.
I'd like to make a comment on Anger's statement there, and Pat can attest to this. When I built my Turgid deck, Hidden Commander Turgid deck, by like turn 5, I was apologizing. Like, I'm looking at all my cards and going, "Oh God, these are all going to suck for everybody." I was like, "I'm sorry that I played a card. I'm sorry. I just don't even want to play this anymore, guys." And they're like, "No, play it out." I'm like, "That I haven't played that deck since."
There's a time and a place. Some people love that kind of game, and if everybody's in for it, go crazy. That's fine.
Right.
I didn't enjoy it.
Building it and playing it occasionally, if you've got the resources to, or if you want to play it on Brawl, or if you want to play it on, and for the record, I play a lot of Brawl.
Brawl's cool.
On MTGO or just try it out. Building that deck and playing it a little bit is a really good experience. I would encourage people, if there's a card on the commander ban list that you think should be unbanned, just convince the other players to let you try it out a little bit. And then when you're done, be like, did that card actually make our games better? And if the answer is yes, fine, keep doing it. You found some people who want to play with that card, that's great. But if the answer is honestly, you might have to do like an anonymous poll. If you get a whole bunch of X's on the pieces of paper, maybe you figured out why that card kind of sucks.
Speaking to your thought process of asking WotC to print cards that are kind of like the silver bullet to certain effects. One of the reasons why I think that cards like our lovely goblin guy, I feel like he hasn't gotten banned because,
Dockside Extortionist?
Yeah, Dockside, right. Yeah, they printed a card in Brothers War called Brotherhood's End. Are you familiar with that card?
Yep.
Yeah, that card I feel like is the answer to fast mana. It's the answer to Dockside. It's the answer to, well, mainly just those two. But it's also it has a board wipe and a fast mana board wipe. Like, it actually, to me, it's one of the best cards in that they've printed as far as an answer to things like that. So I think that for sure is it's got two different effects. So it's not just completely dead if there's no fast mana, if there's no treasures, there's no clues. I think it's fantastic.
I think, but It's pretty cool. I like things that blow up lots of cheap artifacts. I think that's a good twist. It's not a great answer to, because again, you have to draw it for it to be relevant, but it's one more card. And because it is flexible, because it can also be used as a pyroclasm or approximating. I really like that, because you can put it in, and if you're in that game, you see those artifacts, you want it, you can use it that way. So there's a way to punish people for doing that. And when they all get blown up, they get set back. It is punishing them. But you're not punishing yourself by putting it in your deck. So yeah, I really like the design of that card.
I'd like to get to some more.
I feel like we talk a lot about banning cards. What are some of the other questions that folks are asking?
Yeah.
Like one of the questions that I would like to know, because we've mentioned here on our channel, our channel, that we're trying to bring a new format to life, and some of the other people might have formats they want to try to build. What advice do you have for anybody who might be trying to bring a new format to life?
Oh, I like it, Bob.
Man, that's a good question. Okay, so let's be clear. There's always a lightning in the bottle concept. I have, I guess, two formats that have come to life. One of them is Commander, that I helped build. From
what I understand, it was your idea while you were judging.
Not really. I mean, it was the genesis of Commander. Just to go through the 30-second history, there was a guy who wrote an article for Duelist magazine called Elder Dragon Tribal Wars or something, where he was saying, hey, you get one of the legends and play those colors. I actually own that edition of Duelist. I found a copy of it. And then Sheldon was playing with some folks up in Anchorage. They had started playing something similar. We don't know how it got from here to Anchorage, but he was stationed in Anchorage. He was playing with some folks. He was like, this is really cool. He started playing with some people. He wrote articles about it on SCG. We were playing at the Pro Tour. And then, I was there playing on the Pro Tour. There's a guy named Duncan McGregor. Rule 1, always have fun. Hey, that's a really good rule. So we started playing, judges were playing it to blow off steam in the evenings. And then, my ideas were more along the lines of, A, getting it online, formalizing the rules a little bit. B, some of the changes around things like being able to replay your commander with a commander tax that increased. That was one of mine. Just trying to make the rules a little bit more about, hey, you really use your commander and these colors and focus on this mission. So those are my contributions, in the early. But the format certainly wasn't my idea to start with. There's another format though called the planar map, or the Eternities map. We played a game of it, I think, Rob, in Vegas, where you run around. It's a plane chase variant where you run around on the planes, and I could chat about that one for a solid 15 minutes. I love that format, and it has actually been successful. Like, people come up to me, or they'll see me playing, at a tournament, or I'll see them playing, and I'll be like, "Oh, you're playing the Eternities map." And they're like, "Oh, do you know this format?" And I'm like, "I've seen it once or twice." And so that, another example of sort of taking a format and making it successful. There's a few things. I mean, getting the word out, making it easy for people to know about, getting it all played on stream. I mean, if you've got a good format, just playing it on stream on Twitch once or twice a week will get you an audience, and that'll help. Making it easy for people to understand. You have to kill some of your darlings. You have to sacrifice some things. We were talking about this a little bit earlier before the show. You got to make some choices. And sometimes you're like, this is super cool, but it's adding a lot of complexity to the game that the game doesn't need. And you sometimes have to strip those out. People will figure it out if they want to add it in. Stay to your core mission. What is the promise that your format, your game, what is it promising to deliver? Stay on that and make everything about that thing. For Commander, it's beer and pretzels. It's chicken wings and laughter, and everything focuses on that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of designing your game, that's important. In terms of selling and advertising your game, getting it out there. Ask people to link to it. Getting those the search result hits. SEO is important. But I will say that a good thing to focus on for your format is if people are having fun and telling stories, that's what people want. So focusing on that doesn't go too far astray. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I do
and
have to
let me-
say, I just want to thank you for helping bring Commander to light. I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't be playing Magic. Like I quit playing Magic.
Same.
I don't know. I think it was 2015 or 2014. It was whenever Theros, no, not Theros, Innistrad. When the first time I went to Innistrad, that's when I basically stopped playing, and then I restarted playing because of Commander, and I love it. I love everything about it. Honestly, like I still play other formats like on Arena and whatnot, but without Commander, I don't think I would be as interested. I think I would be very, but just thank you and Sheldon and everybody else in the rules committee. I've heard there's 2 more people being added, right?
Yeah, so they're full members now. So the rules committee is Sheldon and myself, Toby Elliott, who's a level senior judge, former level 5, actually holds the records for having head judged the most Pro Tours. Dude is just brilliant. He's one of the smartest people in Magic. Scott Larrabee is the head of organized play and has been for like 20 years. If you think you know stuff about Pro Tours and Magic and how things are played, talk to Scott Larrabee. He's incredible, and he's just a seriously good dude. And then the 2 most recent additions were Jim Lepage, who was involved in the CDH community. Not why he was nominated to the RC. He's just super smart, very ethical, very principled, very smart guy, and someone that we just wanted to interact with more. He's been on the CAG for a while and was just making good contribution after good contribution. And Olivia Gobert Hicks, who is one of the people who made Commander successful on Twitch, is an absolute firecracker, smart as a whip, tons of energy, always making things happen, willing to question things, kill sacred cows, make things better. And again, very principled, very earnest, just wants the format to be better, wants the game to be better. So they recently joined, and they're both incredible teammates.
Awesome.
I have to say, because I'm kind of biting my tongue. But yes, I did play that Eternities format with you. I call it the Plane Chase variant, I guess you could say. But for all of you out there, if you haven't tried it, look it up. Is there a place that people can go to look that up, like the rules on specifically how to play that specific Plane Chase? Because I don't think it would be that intuitive when you're thinking about it, but it made sense when we were playing it.
Yeah, it is very much. So if you Google Eternities map, there's a website that actually implements it. Somebody wrote that up. There's an article. I can put the original article in chat.
Sure.
Let me see if I can find it.
So for the chat, yes, I highly recommend playing this. It was the first time I've ever seen it. It was a fantastic experience. But I was having a ton of fun in Vegas either way. So it was.
I've never
great.
played a Plane Chase at all, ever. But
Yeah,
watching you guys
I
play
never
it and
have
Bob
either.
talking about playing it,
I
I think
actually,
I'm gonna pick some cards
I
up.
was opening up some cards a couple of weeks back, and I pulled one, and it referenced the Plane Chase die. Had no idea what it was. Had to go on Google just to even see that this game I've been playing for 20 years now almost. I had never heard of this. Gavin, with so many different formats, is Commander actually your favorite?
Yeah,
That's honestly a
probably.
longer pause than I expected.
Probably. I mean, I own like 37 Commander decks. I've been doing it for goodness
And
knows
don't
how
tell me you
long.
lug all those things around when you go out, do you?
I mean, when I was in Vegas, I had like 16 with me, I think.
Oh, geez, you're back, man.
They're not that hard to carry around. It's not bad.
Yeah,
I brought one. I brought one.
I brought 6.
So it's really important to me when I'm playing Commander that I be able to match the style
Right, the
of the
power
people that I'm
level,
playing
the
with, and as a leader, that's kind of, it behooves me
Yep.
to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Someone in chat asked, Melissa Del Toro is not on the rules committee, but she does lead, I believe, the casual play design team at Wizards of the Coast. So a great partner of ours. Plane Chase, fantastic. Love Plane Chase. Unfortunately, the original version of Plane Chase is great, but nobody plays it, which is where you have 10 planes of your own. And when you roll the plane or die and you planeswalk, you go to your own plane deck. Most people just play it with a big old fat stack of planes, which is okay, but is honestly really, really random. Even people who are looking to add some more randomness to it, that's often too much randomness, which is why the Eternities map is so good. There's another one where you can draft the planes. If you try drafting them and then build decks with those, with what you've drafted, is a great way to just have a pickup game of Plane Chase.
I'll say maybe each person could add in like 3 of their own Plane Chase to that big stack, and then it would only be 12 cards.
Sure.
And each person contributes their own Plane Chase. Like I said, I've never played Plane Chase, but I watched a Commander game with it, and I'm like, that looks like a lot of fun. So I'm going to look into getting some Plane Chase cards for sure.
Arch Enemy's cool. The trick with Plane Chase is you want to make it so that if you roll the die, because it costs mana to roll the die more than once on a turn, it's got to be good for you. Really good stuff's got to be happening for you. So you got to make sure that planeswalking is in your favor.
One of the ones was you just got 3 lands into the battlefield tapped, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty
cool.
cool.
Doesn't sound bad. Yeah.
Basic lands.
Favorite format, probably Commander, but I do like to mix it up. And like, I'll be honest, I've walked away from Magic twice over the 25 years that I've been playing Magic.
Sure, everybody needs a break. It's
right, and it's fine. Just do something else, play other games, play whichever. I think that's much more healthy than burning out on it.
Well, that's a good segue. What's your favorite non-MTG game?
These days it's Destiny. I play a lot of Destiny 2.
I'm playing it right now. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Lightfall. I've maxed out my Titan, and I like to help Sherpa people on raids. The Sherpa community reminds me a lot of the Commander community and the Judge community in terms of like helping people play. So a good Gallarhorn to the face is. I'm both a PvE person and a PvP person, so play that a lot. I love Omaha. Texas Hold'em and Omaha for poker. Just things that make me think.
Have you ever played a game like Clank?
I don't think so. Which one's Clank?
Clank.
I love Clank. It's a combination deck builder board game.
Oh, I have played this. Yes. I loved this game. This was cool.
There's actually a new one coming out. There's a pre-release already out for whatever. Yeah, it's definitely easy to hit the table. Matt and I we're close together geographically, and we started together we have a board game group here. Now I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of Magic rules in other board games. Sure. I'm kind of curious if you see Magic adopting, in the reverse, some of the rules from other games.
It has a little bit. Magic is kind of set in its ways a little bit, and as much as it's trying to change, it has poached a few things here and there. It probably could stand to do a little bit more. But yeah, not too much, because the core rules for Magic are so established that it's difficult to sort of change things up in dramatic ways. But mechanics can definitely be inspired. I mean, I love board games. I was going to try writing a blog at one point about board games for kids, especially for families. Like if you have kids, things you can play, with like My First Stone Age or whichever. I love those. Tell you a really cool one that I've been playing a lot recently. Hang on, it's over on the shelf. This thing, I got this from a friend of mine, Dungeon Decorators. It looks really goofy. It's Red Dragon Inn, the same people who make Red Dragon Inn. It's Slugfest Games.
I've played Red Dragon Inn recently, yeah.
This is it has the same kind of vibes as Red Dragon Inn, but it is much deeper strategically. This is a game you can play. The comment you made about how you can hit the table quickly, you can set it up pretty quick. It takes a few minutes to learn the rules, but it's not a long teach. Like Fortress America, this is not. And the strategic depth of this game is surprisingly good. It is it's called Dungeon Decorators. It's really good. I've been playing that a lot with my son. Your
son's he's 9 or 10 years old at the moment?
Yeah, I have a 9-year-old son.
Is he still playing Magic?
He does. We play Commander together, usually with precons. He hasn't built his own Commander deck yet. I'm not pushing him when he decides to make that leap, I will be there to support him with my time and my 400,000 card collection.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've got plenty of
you
cards
might
to-
you might. What I'm just gonna be shameless and plug what we're doing here. You might want to try running through it, and we'll be happy to give you the rules. The PVE format that we're working on. I think that was my intent thinking about it when Pat and I have been talking about it for months and months. Is that casual is far more appealing, which is probably why pretty much if you're playing Magic, you're playing Commander. I mean, let's be real. Probably 90% of the Magic audience out there is playing Commander of some form. And that's because it's more appealing to a casual player than just head-to-head. My fiance calls it the F you, I kill you game is how she describes Magic, and she doesn't want to play. But we play a lot of cooperative games like Pandemic and Zombicide and World of Warcraft. We're playing, together. All these, cooperative formats, and that's what we're trying to do with Magic is create this cooperative. So I believe that this format will,
no, actually, it sounds like a really cool thing to do with Alexander. I suspect he would love that.
I think it would be more inviting to people that just don't want to come in and have to play. Like, how daunting would it be to come in and play Gavin against him head to head that he's been playing for 25 years? He's on the rules committee, as opposed to, hey, would you like to have Gavin on your team helping you kill this thing?
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the basic premise behind it. So
that sounds amazing.
Shameless
plug.
plug.
I'm definitely going to come and check it out. Drop into the Discord.
we don't have a name or anything. We've been calling it Raid Monster internally, or Raid Colossus or something. Yeah, we'll workshop a name, but yeah. Just so you guys are aware and when you're watching, we're creating this format. It's a rolling die thing where, like, on the boss monster's turn or the raid monster's turn, you roll a d12, and then there's something that happens on that d12, whether it's sacrifice X number of artifacts, sacrifice X number of enchantments. Maybe it creates some defenders that it kind of uses to protect itself. Maybe it only allows you to draw one card per turn. Maybe it only allows you to play one spell per turn. And then there's going to be all kinds of different bosses from different flavored bosses, like there's going to be a Phyrexian boss, and maybe there's going to be a Porphyros boss, and we can flavor each rule set based on the enemy that you're facing. And there could be a gauntlet style where the rule set starts off as pretty easy, and everybody's like playing. Obviously, it can scale by number of players as well. So if you just want to go solo and you want to play against the boss monster, you can do that because we're trying to make it so it's scalable. If you want to pilot a deck and try to figure out. So sometimes what I'll do, I'll just sit here and on my desk and I'll just pilot a deck and just kind of see what it does. The problem with that is there's no interaction. There's no counter spells. There's no destruction. So like the deck can be really, really good if there's nobody interacting with it. But what happens when somebody interacts with it? And this can help do that. Add some interaction, add some, board wiping and whatnot. So it's a pretty cool format, I think. We're still fleshing it out. We're doing some internal testing, and it's so far really fun. So
it's fun.
Keep an eye out for that.
Cool.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail because I'm look, everybody in chat, please, make sure that we thank Gavin tonight for sharing his time with us.
Yeah,
you know how big I am on.
Yeah.
This is
how
awesome.
valuable time
this is so much fun.
Yeah, we're approaching an hour. When I messaged you, I said that typically these go for an hour and a half. Looks like we've got like 6 more questions or so. Do we want to wrap it up in the next 15 minutes and rifle through the questions kind of doing a gunshot style, or are you okay with a little bit more time?
I got time. I had booked off 2 hours for this, so I'm good to go.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to derail things here for questions that's not in here because it's something we talked about during the pregame warm-up, and that is the calculatron, if I'm saying it correctly. Unfortunately, we ran out of time in Vegas to be able for me to see that, because I sure as hell would have copied it and ripped it off and shared it with people by now. But it sounds absolutely amazing. Do you mind talking about that a little bit, Gavin? Because I am really curious to see how the Calculatron deck / format would be played.
I mean, it is, so it's an uncard. It's a silver bordered. It's not even a creature, so you really need like double permission from the other players. But
I thought it was a creature.
Grand Calcutron is a blue-white artifact that makes everybody lay out their hand from left to right. Whenever you draw a new card, you can put it into the sequence, but you can only play the card that is on the left-hand side, the front of your queue. So basically, it turns your hand into a queue. Counter spells, not so good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like a mini game, an alternate game. It messes things up. It's a ton of fun. It's one of the decks that I schlep around just to try and mix things up occasionally with people and to sort of show how hey, asking folks, can I do X? The answer is usually going to be yes. And if the answer is no, then ask, like ask yourself, why don't people want me to do this? So it's a cool deck. I definitely wouldn't want to play it more than once in a while. But it does make things kind of interesting. It's not as oppressive as you might think on the surface. It feels like it's like just going to wreck the game.
I love how it says it can be your commander.
Player. But other than that, most people are still doing their thing, but they're just like, all right, I'm gonna put this here, then it's weird. Like you put the combat trick at the front of your hand, and then you attack, and people are like, fine, take it.
Are they revealed?
They are.
Play with your hands revealed? Okay.
Oh
yeah, it becomes a program ordered as revealed card. Got it.
Oh,
yeah,
but it says it can be your commander.
Play the one at the front.
It's fine. Yeah.
Does it actually say that on the card?
Yes, an ordered row of revealed cards.
No, I mean, it says in the card text, it says the Grand Calcutron can be your commander, but I don't actually see it on the card. Unless I'm blind.
Yeah, so this is okay. That's basically Mark Rosewater trying to change commander again.
Okay.
Because Mark Rosewater really wants to control commander. No, that's totally unfair.
Don't worry, that's not going in the clip.
I mean, Mark's a good dude, but he has very strong opinions about how Magic should be. He where he has the ability to flex his muscles, he will do so, and he has a lot of influence over UN. So he got them to throw that into the.
That's like Oracle text, basically.
Basically, and here's the thing: I'm not objecting because I play the Grand Calcutron as my commander, but I definitely think it is a card you should need permission from the other players to play.
Sure. I have a funny story about an UN card, real quick. So a new buddy of ours joined the Magic Thursday rotation of playing Commander, and he's a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and he got introduced to the group and he was like, I want to try this Commander deck, so I want to build my Commander deck. So he built a Wart the Raid Mother deck.
Okay.
And so he orders all the cards. He comes to the game the first day, and then he plays this card. It's an UN card because he didn't understand that UN cards aren't legal in Commander. So he just found cards that were cool and put it in the deck. And he played this one that was like unseasoned, I think is what it was called, or seasoned, or something about it referenced the card's flavor text. If it had flavor text, and you chose seasoned or unseasoned. And if you chose seasoned, if a card enters the battlefield that doesn't have flavor text, you drew a card. Which was insane when you make a bunch of tokens. You just draw like 15 cards when you just make like...
Oh, that's nuts.
Weird twist because they're not cards. Tokens are not cards.
I don't know 100% remember how the card was worded, but it should. Yeah. I think it should have worked. But I don't know if it was reference cards or not. I think it might have just been seasoned or unseasoned.
Maybe. Anyway, it's probably something to do with vanilla because we talk about vanilla cards. But I mean, UN cards are interesting. The new Acorn cards, the new the non-Acorn cards in UN was an interesting twist.
Saw and Half is insane.
Yeah, there's a bunch that are bonkers.
I can't believe they made that legal.
Would you say that they're
what we can do, by the way, if you're worried about time, is we could go through the questions, spend like a minute or two on each question, and then like bookmark the ones we think are really interesting and come back to them. Or folks in chat can just be like, hey, can you expand on that thing that you made?
There's a question from Anger Collections. Do you agree that Commander is the future of MTG? It seems like even new sets are focused too much on Commander, unlike before.
Okay, this is gonna be a hot take. This is my hot take for the day. I hope that Commander is not the future of Magic.
Okay.
Wow.
Hot take indeed.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm glad people are playing it. I'm glad that more people are having more fun playing Commander and playing Magic. And I think Commander has been really good for helping people understand that Magic is about hanging out with your friends. It's not about the magic, it's about the gathering.
You lose a lot of the competitiveness, right?
But Commander needs other formats to exist because we started off by talking about how different people play the game differently, and those people need to have their outlets just as much as the people who are playing. In 2010, 2005, when Magic had been around for 20 years, And most of the effort into designing the cards and the money that was being spent on encouraging people to play was encouraging them to play competitive tournament. And there was not a lot of outlets for people who just wanted to, play socially. Commander needed to exist. That's great. But that doesn't mean that standard should go away. Legacy should go away. Whatever the next thing is for people who really like, I don't know, something, plane chase that is super goofy, or I really want there to be like standard being successful, whatever standard looks like. Standard being successful is very important because it means the people who want to play competitive, tournament Magic that is a skill test, put yourself to the hazard. How good can you be? They need to have a format that is for them, in part because if there isn't, they come and play Commander. And while they may have fun playing Commander and they may evolve and they may get to a place where they can be social, if they bring the competitive mentality into Commander and that's all they care about, and they're not willing to have the conversation that, the rule zero. And to be clear, this is not about CDH. CDH is people sitting down and saying, hey, is competitive Commander what you want? This is great. That community is fantastic because they talk and they socialize and they have a lot of fun, but they're not, trying to beat the other person out of the game and stop the other person from having fun. They're not trying to, make it an antisocial experience.
They've all agreed to very hard difficulty.
Sure, and that is a social agreement.
Yep.
So, do I hope that Commander is the future of Magic? No, I hope that that the future of Magic is much more diverse than just Commander, and that there is legacy tournaments or modern tournaments. That there's whatever comes next. That people who want to play those games have places to play those games. An ecosystem. Yes, that's what I want. That's what I hope.
That's a good answer. I like that.
Yeah, I discovered in Vegas that Gavin's a pretty smart guy, folks. I mean, he's a very intelligent
I mostly
guy.
just bounce around like a ball.
No, he's a high energy person. If you ever have the fortune to sit down and play with him, I mean, just what a genuinely great guy. Matt and I talked about it even in Vegas.
And Gavin, since you get to play so many
said I was
different
fanboying, and quite frankly, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, I really didn't know who you were prior to Vegas. I was just excited to sit down and play with somebody who was excited to sit down and play. In the behind the scenes room, there's a lot of people walking around schmoozing, and I had my mat out, I had my cards out, I had my dice out, and I'm like, everybody sit down and play.
I turned to Gavin. He was just sitting there, and I'm like, "Do you want to play Commander?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay." And then I didn't even get to play with them.
What's funny?
Yeah. That's fine.
True story. Matt had to tell me afterwards. So you'll have to tell me. He said he told me that Jimmy Wong walked up to our table while I was playing with you. I had no idea he even showed up. I was like, really?
Yeah, that's who Jimmy was. The guy that I was chatting with over the left. Somebody else was talking to him. Also a very good dude, by the way.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I know who he is. I just didn't even know. I was having so much fun playing what we were doing at the table. I didn't even notice because I sure would have asked him to sign that deck box.
Yeah.
Pat was going to say something, but I did want to answer. Cosmic Seed asked if I was going to be in Las Vegas in September 2023. Pretty good bet. I would say 80-90% chance that I'm there. I will go to almost any event that I'm invited to, or like sometimes I just go for fun. I usually just walk around in the play area. I took notes on 200 games of Commander at this past Vegas event.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, that's crazy.
Basically just walking around, asking people how their games are going, gathering data, making observations. I mean, it's only one type of Commander, but got some good data. Anyway, Pat, what are you going to say?
Yeah,
well, that actually leads wonderfully into my question. Since you see so many games of Commander, since you get to play so many, do you have any suggestions that could make your job easier for Commander players? Is there any way that we can assist with rules committees?
I mean, you already are in a sense, whether it's streamers or just players with people in chat. What we need is for people to play the game and play the game socially, have fun. The things you can do, welcome people to your games. If you see someone who's standing and watching at the store, whether it's a 10-year-old kid or a lady whose mom is, a lady whose kid is playing at the back doing something else, just be like, hey, would you like to join us? Inviting people into your games, that grows the format, makes things fun for everybody. That really helps. If you see a jerk, ask them not to be a jerk. Just call them out. Be the hero little hero. You don't have to be a big hero. Be a little hero and just be like, someone makes a sexist joke, just be like, dude, no, don't do that. That's not cool. That's all it takes. As grown-ups, as adults, we have the charisma, we have the social skills, we have the ability to help steer the community. But it requires a little bit of us. And the biggest ask that I would make is just that people, when you see that's, someone, especially if they're from an underprotected, group. One of the reasons that the RC is so big about stuff like this is if you see someone who is, Black, they're very underrepresented in the Magic community, invite them to the game. There's a barrier for them, for people who are different, for people who are young, for people who are old. For someone who's 50, 60 years old, it's pretty hard to get involved in this game where a bunch of kids are laughing or teenagers are just be like, hey, you want to join us? Or dude, don't protect the other players, help the other players. That makes the game better. That makes our job easier. It makes the community more healthy, more happy, more wholesome. When I see that happening, it makes me really, really proud. So thanks.
Excellent
Thank
answer.
you for all that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was curious to see what your answer was going to be to that. That's a really solid answer.
It's almost like he's done this stuff before, Bob.
You'd think that people have talked to him before about Magic and Commander.
I think it's more that he's just a good dude. I don't know.
Also, I have
agree with
failed a lot.
Sure.
That's one of the best ways to learn.
Screwed up a lot in my life. A lot. And do y'all remember the Michael Jordan Nike commercial about failure? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's a
And I'm
famous
old.
commercial. Pretty sure it was Nike. Michael Jordan is sort of walking off the court or whatever, and he's talking about how he has lost more than 2,000 games in his career.
Oh, I have seen this. Yeah.
He has missed more than something like 37 times, 17 times he's been asked to make the game-winning shot and missed. And he has failed again and again and again, and that is why he succeeds. That was his point. And I was like, if I know anything about this, it's because I fucked up. Pardon my French. It's because I have made so many mistakes in life, and all I can do is try to learn from them.
That's honestly the best parent advice I've ever heard as well. When someone's like, hey man, why are you such a great dad? It's because I screwed up so much. I heard a motivational speaker say once that other motivational speakers always talk about how great they've been doing. But when you meet someone who's messed up all their life, they can teach you just as much as someone who's a millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot to be said about losing games of Commander. How to do it gracefully is one thing, and how to tune up your deck, that's a whole other thing. So
I never lose at a game of Commander. There are just many games I don't win.
There you go.
Yeah, it's losing gracefully is another thing that you can do to make my life easier. Just being like, oh, that sucked. All right, good game. Fine. I'll get you next time. That
I used to be a really salty loser. I really did.
Ooh,
but I've learned I've grown over the course of the years that I've tried to become less. You can get angry because you lost, because I'm very competitive, but at the same time, it's a very casual format. It should be fun. I don't enjoy losing to the 2-card combos, demonic consultation, Thassa's, those kind of things. I'm like, I just would rather not play against them. So then we just ask the people that I play with, if you're playing with that, I'll play my most degenerate deck. It probably still won't win, but it's going to be at least close.
I drive Matt insane because I honestly don't care if I win. When we sit down,
he's not playing Commander. He's playing
10,
his own fun.
Yes, it was funny. We had that conversation in the car. He said I was very much like you, and when we played in the conversation on the ride home, and I was like, "What?" He said, "Because you guys are playing to have fun." It's like it's a game, isn't that the point? He said, "No."
I like winning. Winning is fun.
Less salt in your diet.
That's why we get along so great. I just want my decks to do a thing. That's all I care about when I sit down and play.
Right.
I don't care if I win. I want to. He who smiles the most wins, in my opinion.
And, speaking of that, Bob, sometimes winning isn't always about getting your enemy's life down a total. Sometimes it's about having your deck do its thing. Sometimes it's about having your pet card come out and do something splashy. Gavin, do you have a card like that you get it out on the table and it just makes you light up, even though it doesn't really do anything fun? I mean, for me,
Target.
you know,
What's yours? What's yours? I know you got one.
I'll be honest, it's nothing phenomenal. It's Defense of the Heart. It's 3 and a green. You get it out. As long as it survives, I get 2 great cards coming out. Search anything for my deck. I'm a big creature heavy kind of guy. You know, I grew up on slivers. I came back in because of Time Spiral Remastered having slivers, and I made a modern deck, modern slivers, not so fun. Then I switched over because I heard about this new format called Commander, and I actually got to play a slivers deck and have fun, and it set the bar in my pod. But Defense of the Heart was a key in it being such a great deck. But it's kind of my pet card. It doesn't see a lot of, play. Do you have a card that, does something for you like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely have a pet card, but it's good. I play Vidalcanori in a lot of decks, and have been playing Vidalcanori in a lot of decks for a long time. It's one of the few cards that I use in more than one deck. I own 3 sliver decks, by the way, and they don't share any cards. There's only one card. Sliver Hive is in all my sliver decks, but other than that, they're all different cards.
Interesting.
Favorite cards? It's a really good one. I really like Commandeer. It's super cool.
The flavor's so good on it too. It does what it says it's going to do.
Yeah. What are some other ones? I probably play no. O-Stone's good. Yeah, I think it's.
Are you saying Oblivion? Did you say Oblivion? You said O-Stone.
Yeah,
you talking about Oblivion
Stone.
Oh, that's a terrible card. I hate that card. That's a salty card.
Oblivion Stone's great.
Terrible.
Price of Progress. I'll run me some Price of Progress and shoot everybody in the face. But yeah, I mean, I like diversity of cards. It's actually never about one particular card. It's about finding home. It's about cards that I've never found a home for, and then finding a new home for them. Just finding those.
Like that.
It's always about the next card. Not necessarily good, but there it is.
What's yours, Matt? You said you had a pet card or card.
Apex Devastator.
Okay.
So I play a Cascade deck, an Animarch Cascade deck, which is surprising. I don't see a ton of Animarch Cascade decks. My mind is blown because it just makes every Cascade card even better. When you're able to pay 2 green mana to Cascade 4 times or 5 times. But yeah, Cascade is super fun to me. I built a deck around Cascade, so Animarch's my commander. And when you get Apex Devastator out, it's almost always just you dump half your board on the field. It's just half your deck onto the field. It's just nuts every time. Every time I do it, I'm happy. I just Cascade a bunch of times. I'm happy every time I do it.
There's something about it. Yeah,
Apex Devastator is actually our nickname for it is Zoidberg, because when it hits the battlefield, you run around going.
Oh man! So funny story. Similar enough, we had it actually played in our pod just a week or 2 ago, and somebody was in the restroom, and he came out just screeching, sneakers on linoleum, coming around the corner. Oh my God! What happened? What did I miss? Yeah.
I think Maskwood Nexus is I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what's going on with me, but since that card came out,
he can't stop talking about it.
Apex, Maskwood Nexus would go good in that. Maskwood Nexus would go good in that with about half of the decks I see anymore. And Dream Hall. I love Dream Halls. Just love the idea of Dream Halls.
Dream Halls is cool.
See the
very cool.
Hey, Keto, welcome.
Keto Investor, 400,000. Yeah. So to be clear, I own a bunch of cards because I was a level 3 judge for 15 years and a few before and after that. Organizing cards. I'm terrible at it. No, I probably shouldn't.
Are you a binder guy? Are you a box guy?
I am a binder guy. I recently went through and bindered all the rares. I have shelves of rares basically. The system that I use is binders, long boxes, and then garbage. So I put uncommons in long boxes. I put commons, except for a few of them.
In milk
I
crates.
give them away.
In a trash can?
Yeah.
Basically, I try to give them away to local schools.
Okay, that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, basically, like I did binder them. I recently completed this, which I'm very proud of.
Just tokens?
Tokens.
I went through all
something
my
else,
token
aren't
boxes
you?
and bindered them
That's-
properly.
That's
It
even worse
takes
than me. Like,
time. I mean, in the end, it's like anything else in life. Staying organized takes time and energy. Book the time. Tell yourself, I'm going to spend this Saturday just doing magic cards. Get some pizza, have some fun, sort your magic cards.
It's so funny you say
well,
that. So my
I don't know if
boss
you're
at
supposed to
work,
sort magic cards with greasy fingers, but sure,
No,
go for it.
so
You're
my
right.
boss at work recently has imposing on me that at least 2 hours a week I block off time from meetings. I just block off at least 2 hours for me to just organize my work week.
Mhm.
My first hour on Monday and my last hour on Wednesday. I am
Okay.
expected now to just take an hour each time, set up meetings, write out my emails, make sure everything's tip top. And it sounds so odd, but dang, it's like meditation in the morning. If you get up, you do some yoga, do some stretching, you take a couple of minutes to set out your day, man, it's like a ship with no port. If you don't know where you're going, you never get there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's super smart, and taking the time at the beginning of the week to plan out, to look through your list of all your things. These are the things I'm going to get done. These are the ones I'm not. I'm putting these off to the next week. It's not happening. Here's when I'm going to work on this thing. Here's when I'm going to work on that one. I mean, let's be clear. I'm terrible at it, but I try, and the trying definitely helps.
Yeah.
You guys
find
both
it
said
hard.
you loved slivers. I recently opened my box that I bought from Vegas. I bought one of the convention editions, the mystery boosters, and I pulled an uncard that blew my mind how much it was worth. I pulled a. It's gonna block it out, isn't it?
Oh,
Can I,
yeah, I can't see
Oh, look at that!
anything.
Look at that!
Oh my goodness. We need to talk afterwards. I might need to acquire that from you.
I pulled a It's card. Okay, I could pull it up if you want on the side, but it's a Slivdrazi monstrosity, and it basically it's a Sliver Eldrazi legendary. And the thing that I noticed most about this is I actually think that they got very close to releasing this or plan to release it because the art on it is the most developed of any art I've seen of any card. It looks like it's basically ready to be done for prime time, like color it in and whatnot.
I think that might be. It's possible that they were going to sell it. It's also possible. Both Slivers and Eldrazi had very good art books. They had very clear style guides. This is what a sliver looks like. This is how it works. This is how, So I think in some regards, the quality of the art might just be that the artist knows what a sliver looks like and knows what an Eldrazi looks like.
Okay.
It's so odd that Slivers did change their art, though.
They did.
For
They became the
yeah,
two.
they stood up and walked around and ruined the early 20 teens.
Yeah, they did. It was odd. They also changed from being everyone's slivers to just your slivers.
Ooh, that's a great point. Mechanically, they've changed as well over the years.
Yeah.
Huh. The hive grows.
The hive evolves. All hail the hive.
They kind of look like the hive from Destiny 2. They have very, like, if you look at Crota, like the way that their structure is, I could see them being very Eldrazi-like.
I mean, I would love to see a crossover. I keep hoping that they're going to make a D2
That would be cool.
Universes Beyond.
That would be really good.
I was pulling on Gavin Verhey's ear at Vegas, like, yeah, I can help.
That would be really cool.
Can you I want to play a Zavala deck.
Yes.
I want to play a Zavala deck.
Or a Banshee 44. Like, I don't know how his card would work, but so in Destiny, real quick, there's these they're machines that they have an intelligence put into it, like a human intelligence, basically. They're put into it, and their number at the end represents how many times they've been reset. So Banshee 44, he's been reset 44 times, and they don't remember anything before that because of something that went wrong with their programming. And
I mean, you know who it is, right? Like, do you know from the lore who Banshee 44 is?
I Was just watching a video yesterday on the lore of Destiny 2, but it was 4 hours long, so there's a lot of information that I didn't quite
That's
absorb.
my name is Bife. Don't go and do the Lament quest. If you're playing D2, look up how to do the quest to get Lament. I mean, among other things, it's one of the best weapons in the game. It's a great quest. The flavor is amazing, and you'll find out who Banshee 44 is, and it's a bomb.
I'll have to pull up my dim to see Lament. Do I have Lament? I've played Destiny on and off for a few years, so
Okay.
a few years I mean like many years. I don't have a Lament, so I'll have to. I'll remind myself.
Yeah,
So you've mentioned your pet cards, like favorite cards, but do you have a favorite set, or is there a block? Like I love the Urza's block. That was my favorite time in Magic. Do you have any particular favorite set or block or?
I think
we could
it's
even
got to be
expand that.
Ravnica. I love the original Ravnica block. I love playing it. I love drafting it. I have an MTG role playing game, and I ran a campaign in Ravnica. That campaign was great. The story was amazing. So I think if I had a favorite set, it would probably be the original Ravnica Dissension Guild Pact.
Oh man, I've just loved Ikoria so much.
Ikoria is good.
Amonkhet was underserved. Amonkhet deserved more.
I didn't play during that.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I missed a lot of sets, unfortunately.
Yeah, same. And with how rapidly Wizards of the Coast is putting out sets, I think that people with how often transient in and out of play, I know myself was out for more than 10 years. I can only imagine when, some of our audience returns in a couple of years, how many sets they'll actually be pleasantly surprised to come back and revisit. I mean, like I said, I was gone for a decade. So going back and getting a pack of Kaladesh and seeing like this awesome ethereal art style, it's actually kind of great to miss out on some. We've talked about it a number of times, and it seems as though Wizards is behind the same idea. Only buy the products that are for you. So, I mean...
Sure.
Yeah, Odyssey, there's good ones. I don't think you actually want to go back to Lorwyn, Savannah Lion. If you look at how much... I really liked original Kamigawa. I was one of the people who actually liked it. I liked the new Kamigawa. I thought it was super cool.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But if you look at the way that the story for Lorwyn ended, if we end up going back to Lorwyn is not going to look like it's going to be really bad news for Lorwyn.
So that's actually a good follow-up to the next question. What plane do you feel needs to be fleshed out more?
I
don't know how much. Are you big lore? Are you?
I am. I'm a lore nerd. Okay. I love the lore.
Excellent. So this is a good question. So which plane needs to be fleshed out more?
Good question. Of the ones that have had sets set on them, as opposed to the ones that sort of got mentioned offhand. I could say Chandelar. That's a plane that needs to be fleshed out. But no, I think Amonkhet. I really think, having Amonkhet had a cycle. It had a story that was told, and that story came to an end, and that's okay. But to my knowledge, he didn't collapse the plane, Urza style, the way that Urza collapsed Sarah's original plane. And I think it would be fascinating to go back there and see how those people have the revolution that has occurred. I think that would be cool.
And with all the recent support of cats and dogs, it wouldn't be a terrible mechanic. You get almond kitties.
There's just a ton of stuff that they could do mechanically. What else?
Do you happen to know what actually New Capenna is? Is that a plane? Is it a city? What is it?
I don't know. I assumed it was a city in a plane, sort of Ravnica style. But one of my favorite questions, I asked this at a panel at PAX a long time ago, more than 10 years ago now. And I was they were doing a Q&A, and I got to the Q&A, and I was like, are planes spherical? And Brady Dommermuth, who was the head of creative at the time, was like, and that's all the time we have for questions today.
No, they're flat, like the Earth.
We're not doing this, boys.
Oh, we're not going there.
Like, like, are planes, like, can you go into space? Are there other planets?
Right. Yeah. Are they
Yeah.
universes, basically?
Yeah. So I don't know.
If not, then what's Crucible of Worlds?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, what is it doing? What's
If I
going
just
on?
go that way far enough, do
I
I
will
get
say-
to Dominaria?
In Magic in Magic the Gathering, I don't know, but in Dungeons and Dragons, which I play a lot, planes can be these pocket dimensions that literally they can be like a city, and then like past the city limits, there's just nothing.
There's
Like,
just
you
nothing,
can't,
right? So
you
like,
just can't
like,
go there. So like a plane could
Strahd's
be
dimension in Dungeons
a
and Dragons.
pocket dimension.
Yeah, the pocket dimension that Strahd, the vampire, ruled over. What was it
Yeah.
called?
But Barovia.
Barovia. Yeah.
Barovia. No, Barovia was the city inside the
Barovia,
plane.
you're right. Barovia was a city. It was the I actually ran this campaign recently.
Oh,
I'm a dungeon master, so I run these things. But
The plane,
been a little
yeah,
while.
and but his whole, he just had a pocket dimension, and I kind of figured that's what Magic planes are like. There's borders, and beyond that, you're out of space.
oh, the domain, one of the domains of dread, Shadowfell, World Corner. But it does say Barovia.
Is it Barovia?
What-
Okay, maybe not.
Fairly certain it's Barovia. Yeah, it's a
I keep
Dark
thinking
Lord of the Valley of
Innistrad, but it's
Barovia.
not Innistrad. It's
No.
So where do you think that? I don't want to call it leaked, but I guess you could call it leaked artwork for a Wild West theme that's coming. I even asked in Vegas, and I got some very dodgy, shifty answers about it. Kind of like, you'll have to wait and see.
So like, here's the thing. I am privy to what happens in the future of Magic, so I can't tell you anything about it because I actually know the answer, whether that's true or not.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot. My apologies for that. But
It's perfectly fine, but like, I'm happy to say that I'm not allowed to answer the questions, but because I know what sets are coming down the pipe, any question about what sets are coming down the pipe, I can't answer. What questions, what things should come down the pipe, I can talk about, but which ones are.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't even going to ask that. I was asking more in the flavor of lore. Like, would that be its own new plane? Should it be part of another one? Kind of like how Capenna is, and I don't know. Are we going to be looking at more I don't knows that aren't clearly defined in the future, do you think?
It's a good question, and I think that, like, I think Capenna could have been done as just neighborhoods of Ravnica, but I think they wanted to not be constrained by some of the limits of that Ravnica implies.
It is Barovia for sure. I've opened up the module.
Okay, cool.
Because I haven't. I just wanted to make sure that we stop. I think about things. If I don't get the answer, I constantly try to figure it out. So we have another question that I want to get to. So as Magic has progressed over the course of the last few years have been like what we've seen this more and more. What are your thoughts on the flashy era of Magic where there's 5 different iterations for each card? I'll lead with my thought, just so maybe you don't feel like the bad guy if you don't have a different opinion. I actually enjoy it. I like having different varieties of cards. I'm an ADD guy, so I like if there's like different versions, I want to like pick the exact one I want. Some people say it's ruining Magic. I completely disagree. What are your thoughts?
So again, there are 4 or 5 different games you can play when you're playing Magic, and one of them is collecting. Some people love having complete sets. I've only done it once where I got I actually went out of my way to try and get a complete set of Magic. And it's a cool feeling. It's not my favorite way of playing the game, but it's cool.
Sure.
For those people, it's pretty rough.
Right. It's brutal. Yeah.
Like Toby, at one point, Toby, because he was getting paid in Magic cards,
right,
as a judge, he actually owned 1 copy of every card that had ever been printed. And about 4 or 5 years ago, he's like, well, that's dead. That's not happening anymore.
Right, yeah.
It was around the time they started printing, when they did pre-release foils for every card in the set, which, to be fair, was really cool for most people who were playing pre-releases to get
the dated card, right?
Did he have the summer edition then? Yeah. All of them?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Toby's collection was pretty substantial.
That's awesome.
There was a great. I don't know if anybody saw the episode of Quest for the Jank Lords last year, where Toby and I were guesting on QFLT, and I love their show. And something weird happened. The universe was falling apart. All the rules of Commander were being altered, and we all got to play like I played. I think I played a Dreamblade miniature. Somebody else played like Blue Eyes White Dragon. Somebody else played an Ace of Spades, and Toby played his signed Black Lotus.
That's pretty good.
What's going on? Everything's falling apart. In any case, to the question of like treatments, I think it's fine. I think some people love them. People can find the things they like. I'm fine with there being things that are expressly for the top end, super rare collectibles that people just want to have that chase mega rare thing to get. As long as it's not limiting people's ability to play the game, then I think that's fun. So generally, I'm okay with it. Do I try to chase them? No, not at all. I have a binder which has one of each foil legend ever printed. I'm actually several years behind at this point. It's way out of date. I need to go back and try and play catch up. But I did try to have one of every foil legend in some printing or another, or not necessarily foil. Some of them were altered arts, some of them were full art, some of them were different things. But that's the only thing I try to collect. But for the people who are enjoying it, I think the only people that it's bad for are people who feel that they need to have every card. And honestly, I think it's probably best to break them of that habit.
True. Sure. I've kind of gotten a little. I strayed away from the collector's part of Magic, which is a little strange. I remember when I first started playing Magic, and I opened the packs and I like collect the cards and I try to build the set. And the strange thing is over the course of the years, and coming across a few things that a few websites that do some crazy awesome things for proxy cards, I've discovered that I don't think I'm a collector anymore, which is kind of sad. I'm still a player. I love Magic the Gathering, but as far as like when I can go to a website and have a proxy card printed up, and not for the purpose of selling, but for the purpose of playing, and it's a physical card that has the same kind of feel and the look, and nothing looks different, and I can pick my favorite art, the favorite iteration. It could be foil, whatever. I find it difficult for me to separate. Like, yes, it's worth nothing, but like if you don't care about the value of the card and you're just caring about the playability, the game piece, it's almost like a game piece of a game now. And now it's no longer a collectible thing to me. Now I have the game piece to play the game. Like, I don't care how I got it. Yeah. So it's a little strange.
Some people really like the collecting game. Some people really like the trading game. Some people really like the investor game.
I've dabbled a little bit into that, buying sealed.
So I mean, there's different ways of playing the game. They're for different people. I don't want to take away from anybody's ability to do what they want to do with the game. So different strokes, different folks.
Exactly.
We've asked you a ton of questions here tonight. Do you have any questions of us, or even perhaps the audience?
I mean, I'm really liking what we're seeing in the audience. I mean, people are having fun. I'm learning a ton. Just like I said, I like data gathering. So just wandering around, walking, talking, looking to people, watching people play. I love, someone just said they were just, dropping in to support the stream. They were liking the video. That tells me what I need to know, which is people are, this is fun. I will say, actually, one follow-up thought that I had to the question earlier about like, what can folks do to help me do my job? And this isn't actually to do my job or the RC to do our job. This is tangential. I'm not good at self-promoting. I don't sort of go out and, generally I don't particularly care, but it is probably important for me to be visible. So if there are other streams that you watch, whether it's conversational style like this or games, feel free to tweet at them and recommend. Like if you had a good time listening to this, if you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to tweet at them and be like, hey, have Gavin on as a guest. Like I said, my Twitter is @Genomancer. I'm on Discord. We have a RC Discord server, all the rest of it. But yeah, like getting recommendations onto other streams to go out and play and be visible allows me to get more data, to talk to more people, to hear from more people. And that's a big win for me. So to the extent you can do that, please do. That's a big ad for me.
Yeah, I didn't even know that you guys had a website and let alone a Discord. So that's the Commander RC, right?
Yep. It should be the first hit.
I'll
go ahead and share that. And Pat, let's make sure that we put that in the notes here when you publish.
MTGCommander.net. Then you can also join the Discord if you scroll down.
Yeah, if you just Google Commander RC Discord, And we stream on Twitch. So the RC has a Twitch channel of our own. We stream on Thursday evenings. We play games against each other, and then we bring in guests from the community, play stuff like that. So feel free to drop into Twitch if you'd like and chat with us there. There's a website, there's a Discord. They're all, SEO is pretty good for those. So you should be able to find them through your favorite search engine, whatever that is.
So, I guess this would be better to ask offline. So, I have, I network quite a bit with other content creators. So you don't mind me asking them to, get in touch with you to be on their shows? Like,
please do. Here's the thing. If it's value add for them, then I'm happy to.
I can't imagine, Gavin, let's be real. I can't imagine any content creator that would be loath to have you on their show. I mean, this is a big deal for us, and I'm sure it would be just as big a deal for anybody else in the community.
I'd love to. That would make me happy to give back to the community, because in the end, y'all playing this game is what makes it work. So
true. Yeah.
The more I can help out with streams, content, anything like that, happy to.
Try to get Joel to have him guest on one of the league games that they broadcast.
No, I'm 2-0 in the league game, so I'm doing pretty.
I'm just saying, can you imagine having Gavin come in and play in one of those games? That'd be a pretty hot stream for them.
Do you play in any leagues? Any
not regularly. I play in some sealed deck, box sealed league.
We're doing that. We're doing that in December. It's going to be a Commander Legends 1 and 2 box league.
Ooh, shoot me a link. I might join that. That sounds like fun.
Okay.
Do love to.
So, I don't want to take up too much more of your time here. We've been going about an hour and a half. So
yep.
I want to be cognizant. Your time is precious, and I want to thank you.
And we got through all of our questions as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much, Gavin, for coming by. I'm glad that we got to share some of our passion for this game together, and I look forward to further talks about other ways that we can do that with some of the crazy stuff that we've been cooking up behind the scenes. Love to have you come by, maybe roll some dice and flip some cards with us as well.
That'd be great. That sounds good. Just let me know. And, like I said, I've got a calendar of things. I mean, as I told my boss once, first and foremost, my dad, my kid, I'm a dad. My kid comes first. My wife comes first. And, life is busy with jobs, but as much time as I can free up to help out, come on streams, talk to people, talk to you all this. I mean, this is a great gang. It's good. You got good chat. You got good questions. Let's just either play some games or just sit down and talk tech.
We're new. We're growing. I think we're doing good.
Do it.
I want to thank everybody in chat too. By the way, I mean,
yes,
it's great to have special guests like Gavin, but everybody out there, I mean, we'd have no channel. It'd just be four dudes sitting here talking like on Discord or something if we didn't have the chat, and you guys giving us all of your time too.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, and I mean it. Thank you so much for your time. It's the most precious thing any human being has. Thank you for yours.
Well, on that note, until next week, this has been Cardboard Conversations. Y'all take care. Be great.